Good evening there, everybody. What is happening? Hopefully, you'll having a wonderful day today. Excuse me. So, I thought that I would give a little fight prediction. To be honest with you, I didn't even know that this fight was happening tomorrow. It's between Vergil Ortiz Jr., I believe, and Maurice Hooker. I know both of these fighters. I've seen both of them in a couple of fights. I've been very impressed with one, and to be honest with you, with the other one, I've never really been that impressed. I've been very impressed with Vergil Ortiz for certain, for I believe the couple years now that I've seen him. I've seen him fight Samuel Vargas. I've seen him fight, who else did he fight, man? I've seen him knock out Mauricio Herrera. That was really the first time that I heard about him because Mauricio Herrera, even though I won't call him an all-time great fighter, he certainly gave a couple of tough fights to some very good fighters. Gave a tough fight to Danny Garcia. Actually, when I watched that fight very, very long ago, I actually thought Herrera won that fight, but I would have to rewatch it. But when it comes down to it, man, Vergil Ortiz has really been on a roll, man. He's been on a very, very good roll. I can't remember who he fought last time. Was that Samuel Vargas? I don't think he fought Samuel Vargas last time. I thought it was somebody else, but I can't remember. Maybe it was. But anyway, I've been very impressed with Vergil Ortiz. He looks like a very complete fighter. And Maurice Hooker, he doesn't look like a bad fighter. Maybe you could call him a B-class fighter, but I'm not really even sure if you want to call him that. I remember when the Maurice Hooker versus Jose Ramirez fight happened, and a lot of people thought that that was a 50-50 matchup, and it was a decent fight, but I could tell that just from watching Maurice Hooker's skill set that he wasn't going to beat Jose Ramirez. And the thing is about Maurice Hooker, he just leaves himself too open. He overextends a certain amount of punches. Maurice Hooker is not necessarily an A-class skilled fighter. He's a B-class skilled fighter, and to be honest with you, he's probably a B-minus skilled fighter. I don't even think Maurice Hooker would win against the likes of a Robert Easter if they were in the same weight class. I don't even think that he's on the same level as an Adrian Broner. So when it comes down to it, I've never really been overly impressed with him. I think that he does decent in some of his fights because he doesn't have the worst power um, and because overall that he has that long reach for the weight class. But I don't think that's going to be enough against Vergil Ortiz. Vergil Ortiz, there's a lot of people hyping this kid up right now. There's a lot of people saying that he's the future of the division. I certainly think that he is one of the. I think that he is a part of the future of the division for sure. The question is, how far is he going to go? I've heard him apparently call out Terrence Crawford lately. I don't know if that would be the best fight for him next. I think overall he needs to kind of fight one of those, still kind of needs to fight some of the top contenders. I think a good fight for him actually after this would maybe be like a Jesse Vargas. If you really wanted a big fight, maybe a Mikey Garcia. And to be honest with you, that's kind of who Vergil Ortiz reminds me of. He kind of reminds me of a Mikey Garcia, maybe not as skilled, but has more power than Mikey Garcia, because Mikey Garcia really is not a natural welterweight. He's probably a natural 140-pounder, which of course isn't that big of a difference, but it is what it is. But anyway, when it comes down to it, I think Vergil Ortiz is going to smash him. To be honest with you, I don't think that this really is that close of a fight. At first, I was going to give at least a 30% chance to Maurice Hooker, but I just don't see really what he can do to beat Vergil Ortiz. I think Vergil Ortiz has a good enough chin to handle his power. I think Maurice Hooker has good power. I don't think he has great power. Now, we'll figure it out. If Maurice Hooker is able to hit Vergil Ortiz and hurt him a certain amount of times, that'll be a little chink in the armor that we see from Vergil Ortiz. But I don't think I've ever actually seen Vergil Ortiz hurt. Maybe it's just because the opponents that he faced as of yet hasn't been able to hurt him or hit him that much. I don't know. But his defense doesn't look bad either. I don't see Vergil Ortiz get hit a great amount of times. So we're not really going to see how great he is until he really steps up in the division. And I don't really think this is a fight that is going to reveal a whole lot unless Maurice Hooker is able to hit him on the chin a couple times and maybe hurt him. But I don't know. Personally, I see Vergil Ortiz smashing him. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong. I've been wrong before, but I don't think I'm going to be on this fight. I don't think Maurice Hooker's on that level. I think Vergil Ortiz has the opportunity to become an A-class fighter. We'll have to see how high up in the division he goes because Earl Spence is still there. We'll see how much longer Earl Spence is going to be there. Terrence Crawford is there. Sean Porter, all those guys. A good fight actually after this. I won't say immediately, but I'd say a good fight after this actually would be either Thomas Delorme or Jesse Vargas. I think that would be a good fight for him next. Maybe Aegis Kavalaskas. That's another guy that's, all those guys that I mentioned, some of them are C-class fighters, some of them are B-class fighters. But when it comes down to it, a good solid B-class fighter, I think, is what would be good next. Because to be honest with you, I'm not really even sure Maurice Hooker is a B-class fighter. If he's a B-class fighter, he just makes it in there. So it is what it is. But, I think Vergil Ortiz is going to knock him out. I think that he's going to hit him a bunch of times. I think that his defense is pretty good. Maybe he'll have a little bit of trouble, more than I'm predicting right now, because Vergil Ortiz doesn't have the reach that Maurice Hooker does. But what Maurice Hooker kind of reminds me of, he kind of reminds me of a lesser version of Paul Williams. Like, Paul Williams used to fight in the welterweight division and he used to be very huge, and a lot of people always said that he was very underrated in some other things. Paul Williams, in my opinion, never really had an A-class skill set. He kind of was just used to fighting guys smaller than him, and that usually provided him a decent advantage against other guys. Although I would say that he was more skilled in his abilities than Maurice Hooker was for his, but that's who he kind of reminds me of. Very decently big, and he kind of, not as skilled as a lot of people think. He's just big. That's really the only thing about Maurice Hooker, and I'm not saying that he's not a decent fighter, but that's really his main advantage. He's big, he's got a long reach, and there's just certain fighters out there like that to where their advantage is their size. And, that certainly is one of these fights. So, it is what it is. But I'm going to go with Vergil Ortiz. I'm going to go with Vergil Ortiz probably by, I wouldn't be surprised if it was a 4th round knockout, to be honest. I'm going to say anywhere from rounds 4 to 7 is where Vergil Ortiz is going to knock him out. We'll see what happens. And I see a certain amount of people saying, well, Jose Ramirez was able to knock out Maurice Hooker, so what do you think Vergil Ortiz is going to do to him? I do think Vergil Ortiz has more power than Jose Ramirez. Vergil Ortiz, with his power, it looks like he might actually have more power than even Errol Spence. And that's a big speculation because Errol Spence has a great power. But I don't know. We're really going to have to see that when he faces the more elite fighters. So, but anyway, I think that this is a good fight. Or at least for Vergil Ortiz, I think this is a good fight. It's not the worst fight, I guess, that he could have took. Maurice Hooker's not a bad fighter. Maybe a B-class fighter, but, Then after that, I think he needs to face a solid B-class fighter. Like I said, a Jesse Vargas would suffice. I think that'd be a great fight. And then after that, then maybe step in the ring with an A-class fighter. Then you have Mikey Garcia. Maybe he would want to take the fight. Maybe. Maybe if you were to get Josh Taylor, Jose Ramirez, whoever wins that unification fight, maybe you'd get one of them to face you. I'm trying to think who else. I don't know. Sean Portman should be good, but that's probably a little bit too much too soon. One of those guys, man. I would love to see those fights. Or Yordanis Ugas, I believe is that guy's name. After you fight another B-class fighter next, maybe you face Yordanis Ugas, who, in all honesty, is probably still a B-class fighter, but a high-class B-class fighter. So, it is what it is. But that's really about it. Thank you all so much for watching. I got Vergil Ortiz. I'm going to go with, anywhere from the 4th to 7th round by knockout by Vergil Ortiz. We'll see what happens. We'll see what Maurice Hooker can do. In my opinion, I don't think it's going to be much, but we'll see what happens. That's really about it for today. Thank you so much for watching. I'll talk to you all later.